So when you boot up the lighting desk, the Avolites Titan, this will be done by the TDs usually. You'll be greeted with a show file that will load up automatically on the screen, and you can see which show file you're on by seeing the yellow text up here, the name here. So it will load up the latest show file that was in there before, the day before, or anyone that was using it before. So how do we load a different show file? To load a show file, you go to disk. So the disk button first, which is just over here. So you push disk, and then the options on the side of the screen change, and you get load show, you get save show, you get save as, and we want to load show. So here we will click load show. So you can either click on the screen or the button on the side, and now you'll get to choose a show. So you choose the show you want to load. I'm going to load Jenga S2 just for now, and then you choose which save that you want to load as well. So we click the latest save. You can have as many save versions as you want. So now we click load at the bottom, which is just down here, and then you click load again. It will now load the show and any saved parameters. Now you have several preset workspaces here, just in this small section here. And what we usually work on is fixtures and groups. So then you get a list of all the fixtures at the top, and then you get your groups or custom groups here as well that you can make. So this is how to save a show file. So say you've made some changes and you want to save it at the end of the day, so you can load this back up for your next project. So I've made some changes to this. I'm happy with this, and I want to now create a new quick save, basically a new version of this show file. So what we need to do again is press disk, just down here, disk, and then again you get these options at the side of the screen. Now we want to choose either save as, so save as will create a new show file off this existing show file that we're on currently. This will create a new show file, so you can name it, and it'll be a new one that you can load like we did before. But if I just want to update this show file and create a new version of this show file, kind of a new variation, say a 2.0, all I have to do is press save here. So option C. And then what that will do is let me name this save if I want to. So I could say version 2, version 3, but all it saves at currently is quick save, and that's fine for me. So then we click save at the top. And that creates a new version, basically. That creates a new list in that show file that I can load up. And of course I can go back to an older quick save if I want to as well. How to do a basic playback recording. So this is the simplest way to record, and it's the kind of our bread and butter of how we save lights or any kind of fixtures that we want to have a quick thing on what we call playback faders, which is down the bottom here. These are our playback faders down here. So how do we first start recording? So first we need to select the lights that we want to record and do something to. So I'm going to select the lights that are on the floor currently, these movers. And what you can do is use the screen and you can find the lights that you want to modify. So I'm going to find my lights here, and you can drag to select, or you can click and select. When they're selected, when they're white, that means they are ready to be modified in any way. The way we modify these is over on this side here, we've got all of our attributes. So we've got intensity, position, color, and etc. So not all the lights will be able to do all of these attributes, but the ones I've chosen currently can do. So the first thing we want to do is make them go 100% brightness. Usually that's a good start, because then you can modify from there. So there's several ways you can go 100% brightness. You can just select intensity up here, so a blue light comes on, and then you see on the screen here we have two parameters have come up. These screen here, this little white screen, these three sections correspond to these three wheels here. So I can just dim the lights up using that wheel there, and you'll notice they've now dimmed up to 100%. Another way you can make it go to 100%, if I take it back down, is by pressing the @ symbol over here twice. If I press this twice, they go to 100% automatically. So that's a much quicker way to get straight to 100%, especially if you've got lots of lights selected. And so I've got my lights at 100%, and that's intensity. Now, an important thing to note when recording something is we have on the screen here I, P, C, G, B, and these correspond to the attributes over here. Now, if they have nothing around them, so no color, no circle, like these ones over here, that means they're not going to be recorded, they're not going to be saved. No data is going to be recorded. Whereas if you look at intensity currently, intensity has a little blue circle around it, and that means that intensity has been changed, and it will be saved if we press record now. It's been recorded that something has happened. So how do we now record this to one of the faders down here? So we press record, and the record button is just here. And that will start to make everything flash. All these blue lights will start to flash. Everything flashing is somewhere that you could save this light to, basically, this modification you've made. Now I'm going to save it down to one of these faders here. To do that, you just have to press the blue button at the top. And now you'll notice that we have saved a light here, yeah, on this fader. Now, important to note, after you've chosen the fader to save it on, you now want to press clear and exit down the bottom here, because that will make you come out of, as you can see, we're still got our light selected. So we want to come out, press clear and exit, and that deselects the lights. And now you'll notice that the lights have gone off, but that means we can now put the fader up and our lights come up. You want to also make sure that your master fader, the one here, is up as well. If this is down, nothing will happen. So you've got to make sure that is up as well. So now I can use this fader to bring the intensity up and down, and I can save as many different light fixtures and light setups that I want on these playbacks using the same technique that we just done. So I'll just do a very quick recap of what we've just covered, just the simple highlight points of how to do a basic playback recording. So the first thing you do, select your lights. Select the lights, then you turn them to 100%, whichever way I told you to do that. I'm going to do at. You then make sure that your parameters are being saved, so I can see that my intensity is going to be saved here, nothing else. I then press record, and I choose a playback fader that I want to put it onto. So I'm going to choose this one here. Then, very importantly, you press clear and exit down the bottom to make sure that you're not selecting the lights here. And now we can test our fader, and it brings the lights up. That is all you need to do to record. So now I'm going to do how to create moving lights. So this is a level 5 tutorial, level 5 studio, and this is how to create moving lights with moving lights on the floor for any of your kind of game shows or anything like that. So there's 3 ways to do moving lights, and I'll take you through each way and the pros and cons of each one, really. So we have, the first one is the 2 playbacks. The simplest way to create 2 positions, 2 moving lights. It's basically the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire style. So we are now going to select the lights. My floor lights are 61 to 65 currently. And we want to make them 100% just to turn them on. So we're going to press at and have them at 100%. Now I want to actually change the color of them as well, just to add a bit of a difference in each position. So I've got color here, I've chosen color, and it brings up this color wheel in the top screen here. So I can now change the color to maybe a dark blue or purple, whichever it's showing up on camera. So now I want to record this position. Now, interestingly, you may remember we need these parameters to be highlighted. So position isn't actually going to be saved yet. So I need to select position and simply just twiddle each of the pan and tilt wheels. Now you'll notice that these lit up blue as well. So you could just save your pan or just save your tilt. You want to make sure that both of them are lit up though, so you're saving this position as your start position. So this is our position 1, and we've got intensity, position, and color are going to be saved now. So when I press record, and I'm going to choose a fader to save that onto. And then of course I'm going to do clear and exit. Now we want to test that. So I bring the fader up and we get our purple light shooting upwards. Perfect. Now we want to do this again, but we want to save position 2. So we select our lights again. We make them 100% again. But now we want to make a change. So I'm actually going to change the position and I'm going to tilt them down. So if I tilt them towards the camera, you can see we're going to get some nice blinding things, and I'll put them on the floor there. So this is going to be our position 2. Now our intensity is being saved and our position is being saved. That is fine because I don't want to change the color either. I just want the lights to move for this exercise. So now I will click record and I will select the playback next to the other one. And of course, clear and exit. Now we'll test that, and that is fine. We put up the other fader and it goes back to the first selection. So you'll notice how the lights move whenever I choose which fader I want to do that. Now there's a neat trick of if you put both faders up at the same time and then you select either or blue button, it will switch between the two positions. And that's a really good way to get simple moving lights on your project. Now, the downside of this is you'll notice that they move very quickly from each position. So how do we control that? How do we change that? Well, there's a simple way. We can go into our fader modes and change one of the fader modes so we have more control over this. So what I want you to do is select the fader or one of the faders, and all I did there is I tapped it on the screen just where the fader, the Q says there, and it brings up this kind of playback menu here. Now what you want to do is go to options on the side here, and you want to go down this list until you see fader. So you click on fader and then it brings up these little options here. So this is all the options that control how the fader responds to each other. So now we want to, the mode we want to choose is Q fader mode. Click on that and it brings up 4 options that we have that we can change and modify how these faders work. And it does say on them what they do. And the normal one, that usually the default that all these faders are on, is 0. But for today, we want to do fader 3 or mode 3. So if I select that, and it's called crossfade. And now, if I take the fader that I've done this modification on and take it down, when I bring it back up, you notice that the lights moved as fast as I move the fader now. So if I take it really slow, the lights are going to move really slow going up. So this is now, I have control over how fast I can make these lights move, purely by just controlling this one fader. I can make the lights stop halfway if I want to. So that gives you a lot of control over how this works. So I'll take them back up. So all you have to do is do it to one of the faders. You don't have to do it to both of them. And then you just control it from that point and it changes from both of them. Now you need to make sure that both of them are up though and active. And then that means you're changing between the two. So the next technique for moving lights is Q lists, also sometimes referred to as Q stacks. but on the desk here it's referred to as a queue list. Now, queue list is basically a way of having both of those faders that we showed you before on the playback method, but having it onto one fader, so you're saving room down at the bottom here. So how do we start to create this queue list? First thing you need to do, same as every other way, we select our lights and we get them up to 100%. So we do at. Now our lights are on. Now we want to make any modifications that we want to, basically for our first position, same as we did with the playback method just before. So I'm going to choose color again, and I'm going to change the color maybe to a red. Now this red is good because that means we can differentiate between the two cues. So we've got intensity, we've got position. I'm going to make sure the position is of course saved. Like I showed you before, we just twiddle these a little bit and you get these two lit up blue parts here, and we can see that now position is also lit up with a blue circle. So that's going to be recorded. Now we want to record. So we press record. Now we don't choose a fader at this mode though. This is where it changes. So now we want to select queue list. It says at the side of the screen here. It's option D if you're using the keys at the side here, the buttons. Now you select this and it highlights queue list. So now what that's done is, rather than us recording in a normal playback mode, we're now recording in a queue list mode. And now we choose a fader to put this onto. So I'm going to choose this fader here. Now this actually hasn't saved any of the lights or the attributes yet. What we now need to do is look at the top of the screen, and you get a bit of text up here. This text is basically saying you are now going to record a cue, and this cue is number 1. So we haven't actually recorded cue number 1 yet. To do that, you make any changes here. You can make any changes here as well. You can do it before or in this stage. And now to record it, you just press the blue button at the top of the fader. And you'll notice now we have something that says Q1 on the screen here, and the writing at the top now says record Q2. So whatever that number says at the top is the cue that you're going to record next, basically. So we've already recorded Q1. Now I want to make some changes. So I'm going to change the position of my lights, and I'm going to tilt them down again to the floor. And I'm actually going to change the color to a turquoisey blue, sure. And now what I want to do is press that button again. There we go. That has now recorded the second stage or the cue in this list. Now how do I view these cues in this list? Because you notice that nothing came up here, nothing changed on the screen here. If you tap on here, you bring up your cue list here. So this is going to tell you how many cues you got. Now you can have absolutely loads of these listed out on the screen here, and this is so you can have it's a bit more of like a theatre style, so you change between scenes, and you can save everything beforehand and have it ready to go, basically. So we've got 2 cues here, 2 positions that I've saved in different colors of lights, and they are listed here. Now the thing, of course, after a recording you want to press clear and exit, and that's going to turn the lights off, but it means we're now working on the faders. So I put the fader up, and you'll notice nothing happened. Now that is because the cues work from a different set of buttons. They need the fader up to be active, but they actually are triggered by this panel down here. Now this panel has several buttons on it, and it's all to do with cue lists. It doesn't do anything else. Now the main button is the go button, this big red button at the bottom. So you press this button and it will go to Q1. So now our cue is selected there and it is activated Q1. If I press go again, it is now gone to Q2. So this is how you can go down each cue in sequence if you have a show that is having lights change in that kind of order, structured order. Then you can just keep clicking, go, and go down them. Now you'll notice I've only got 2 cues, so it is switching between the 2 as I press the go button. Now you can also jump between different queues down the line by using the select queue buttons here, and you can choose previous or next, and basically you can activate a different queue if you want to, if you had a long list of queues here. So this is how to record basically a queue list. This is now done, and we can click through our queues there. Same way we did the playbacks, but this is all on one fader, and it uses this system here instead. So now we've recorded our queue, and we're quite happy with it, but we want to add another queue in to the same list that's already been created. So how do we do this? Well, it's quite simple. All you have to do is select the lights that you want to modify. So again, I'm going to choose my 5 lights on the floor, and I'm going to do a modification to them. So I'm going to choose position, and I'm going to tilt them up maybe about halfway or so. And I'm going to, in fact, no, I'll put them even further, and I'll put them on the back wall. I'm now going to choose color, and I'm going to choose a different color. Let's choose a nice yellowy orange. Perfect. And of course, intensity, I want to be at 100%, so it will be recorded. Of course, any attribute that isn't highlighted here will not be recorded. It's the same process as any other recording. So I'm happy with that. That's the change I want, and that's going to be my third queue. But how do I add it to this existing list? Well, simple. You press record, you tap on the playback button at the top here, and what this does is it puts you into a record mode for this queue again. So you'll notice at the top of the screen here, you have record queue 3 now. So we're back into editing and recording onto this queue. So what I can do now is press the blue button, and that has now recorded those parameters, those third settings that I've chosen. Of course, I can press clear and exit, and you'll notice I've got a third option now on the screen. So if I press my go again button down the bottom, it will now change between Q1, Q2, and now Q3. So that's how to add more queues in. Really simple, really easy, and you can put more queues in and keep adding them in to create new scenes, basically. So now we want to edit one of these queues in our already existing queue list. So this is not adding a new queue, this is purely editing one and modifying its attributes. So I've got Q3 currently active on the lights, and it is highlighted here on the screen, as you can see. Now I want to make some changes to this, so I'm going to select my lights, and I'm going to change the color. So I'm going to choose a green, if I can find a green. There we go. And that's what I want to change or modify on this queue. Now, how do I just do this to the queue? I'm not adding in a new queue to the list. Well, you press record, and the next thing you want to do is press connect queue down at the bottom here in our queue buttons on this tab down here near go. There is a connect queue button, and we want to click that, and what it's going to do is decide that we're now going to record any changes to this one queue in the list. And you can double check this by looking at the side of the screen, and it tells you which queue you're going to be modifying here. So it should say Q1, 2, or 3, whichever one you're wanting to modify. I'm going to do number 3. And the queue will also go red to highlight that you're making some changes to it. Now I've made changes to it. I've obviously modified the color, and you can see the color is highlighted here the same way that we do any other recordings. Now you get 2 different options up here. You get merge and you get replace. So merge will just merge this attribute, whereas replace will completely wipe all other attributes off the list and only put in that one that we're recording. So if I want to just change the color, I'm going to click merge. Then I will click clear and exit after a recording. And now, of course, I want to check that that's done what I want it to do. So I'm going to click through my queues and go to Q1. That's fine. Q2, that's right. And Q3 is now green rather than yellow. So I've modified that single queue and changed its color or any other attribute I could have changed. So now we want to do option 3, which is using a shape generator to make the lights move. Now this is not the best option for having 2 points of movement, A and B, but it is a good area to explore for light movement. So the first thing we want to do is select our lights. And then we want to make sure they are at 100%. So there you go, I've got some green lights on and I've got them at 100% on the background. Now, we don't want to do any recording, the same as anything. What we want to do is go to Shapes and Effects here. And now in Shapes and Effects, you want to choose Shape Generator at the top. So we choose Shape Generator and we've got our lights selected, the ones that we want to modify. Now this only really works with moving lights, not anything else. So you want to do Create, and you get a list of different shapes that you've got down here, or you can look at the side of the screen here and you get kind of categories of shapes that you want to choose. Now I want to choose a pan and tilt shape, so a moving shape. So I'm going to click that and I'm going to choose a tilt saw, such a simple shape that I just want to do that one. Now you'll notice the lights are now moving, they are animating, and this is because we have activated that effect. You can notice that by down on the screen here we have an effect happening right now and it's saving that data. So with this effect you get 3 modifications. You can choose the speed of the effect, how fast it creates this shape. You can choose the size of the shape, so how large of that shape the lights are going to create. And then you get spread, and spread is for if you want to offset some of the lights and make them do a slightly different movement. So let's have a play around with these. First one is speed. So speed, if I turn this up, you'll notice that the lights are now going to be moving faster and animating faster. They're moving up and down quicker than they were before. If I take this back down, they're now going to be moving nice and slow. Take it way down. We get nice slow animation. So you get a bit of control over this, but nothing major. Now I want to choose size. So if I change the size and make it larger, now you can see the lights are now hitting the floor on both sides. So that is created, that tilt saw effect is now much larger and the shape is going down. If I take this back down, it will now only go so far again. So this is a good one to modify because then you get more control over how large that shape is going to be shown. Now spread, if I change this to maybe 2, you can see we get a bit of an offset now. So the lights are now offsetting in groups of 2. So each light, every 2-second light is going to be doing a different effect. That's how that works. And we can get an offset going on, which looks really nice on the back of the screen and on there. Now if I wanted to record this, it's the same as doing any kind of other effect saving. You want to make sure that your intensity is up, your color, any other parameter that you want to save. So I'm going to make sure that my color is saved on the green. And of course my position doesn't matter because we're doing the position with effects. Now we want to press record and we want to choose a playback to put this on. Choose that one and then we clear and exit. Now you'll notice that kills the effect because we've cleared that effect and we're not doing it in the modification section now. And now if I take this fader up, the effect begins and we get the effect back on our lights. And I can take this down nice and slow and it fades those lights out and stops the effect as well. Bring it back in and I can have the effect go again. So you get full control with the playback fader for the effect.